Hello, all of you Express Entry Law and Canadian Immigration Institute followers. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you live from the Lethbridge Nikayuko Japanese Gardens. And I would say this is probably the most recognizable place in Lethbridge when people think of Lethbridge and places to go. And it is absolutely beautiful. And so you can see in the background here, this is a beautiful picture at sunset. Now it's it's about 12:05 Mountain Standard Time today. And I missed our last EE Live Q&A, so I want to apologize for that. I had a bunch of things going on. I was traveling, but I'm back now, and I'm really excited to do another live Express Entry question and answer session. Now, as we wait for people to chime in and to connect, let me know where you're tuning in from. And remember, this backdrop, I'm starting with Lethbridge, but I want you to send me backdrops from beautiful areas in your country. And every week I'll have a new backdrop with my fancy green screen. And obviously it's not perfect, but who cares? This whole thing has never been perfect when it comes to the video quality, but the content rocks. So send those to me, and it would be wonderful. Put in the comments where you're listening from so we can see where everybody is tuning in from. I'm going to pull the comments up for me here so I can see what everybody is where everybody's tuning in from. But make sure that you most definitely indicate where you're listening from. Today is a really cool day because I have the pleasure of being joined by a past client who had a real challenging situation and now finds himself happily in Canada as a permanent resident. And so I wanted to bring him on to talk about his story because it's a little bit unique. And every one of us has a unique journey to Canada. And Chris is by far one of the more unique clients that I've had in the past. I see Ralph is tuned in here from Edmonton. Hi, Ralph. Good to see you. Hare is from Pakistan. Ishfaq is India. So that's great. People are now starting to tune in. So if this is your first time and you just stumbled upon this Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page, many of you will also probably know that we have the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Make sure that you also go in there and request to be added as a member. It's private, so not everybody who wants to can get in. And that's a great place to share information. And there's just a ton, well, there's almost 125,000 people in that group that are all out there doing the same thing you are, trying to find your way through this complex maze that we call Express Entry. So make sure that you subscribe to request to join that, and make sure you answer the questions. If you don't answer the questions, you don't get in. I just decline. So answer the questions, and then we'll know you're a real human being who actually is interested in immigrating and not some spammer. All right. Okay, here has already got a question. Hold off on your questions here until I give you the green light. I've got some questions that were sent in to me through my email to info@holthelaw.com. And while we're waiting for a few other people to chime in, I'm actually going to add a few little logos. So one is this one. And this one right here, Holthe Immigration Law, is my new firm, and I'm so excited about this. It is just an awesome new venture that I've started down. And there's just something about having something that's your own. And I've been at this game for, over 15 years, and I can tell you that this is the first time when I've been so unbelievably excited about starting and practicing in my own office. Now, I've had lots of partners in the past. I've had different configurations, but at this stage, it's been all about kind of working and accommodating other areas of the law. But now, finally, I can focus just on immigration, and that's what Holthe Immigration Law is all about. Okay, a couple other housekeeping matters. If you have a question, and I'm just looking here through all of my past little notifications. I've got 1,000 of them. I thought I deleted a whole bunch of these, but apparently I didn't. Let's turn this one on right here. So you'll see right here, EE Live Q&A. If you have a question that you want to send me, and all you have to do is send an email to, and I'm going to put this one in here. I have to create a new one, it looks like. Okay, so I'll add this in. Okay, so all you have to do is send an email right here to info@healthylaw.com. And don't forget to put EE Live Q&A right here in the subject line. And if you do that, your question can be considered for an upcoming EE Live Q&A. And for those of you who are watching on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, which is very quickly becoming one of the main locations that people are reaching out to me. Those of you who are watching this as a recording, understand that you can also get your questions answered by sending this email in. So we'll take care of those first, and I'll just leave this down here for the time being, and I'll slide this one right over here. So EE Live Q&A, that's what you type in the subject line. All right. Those of you who are watching live, I will answer your questions today. So hang in there. We're going to go through a little quick interview. I've got my special guest, Chris, who's going to join us here in a couple minutes. And then after we do that, I'll answer some of the questions that were sent in by email. And then I'm going to dedicate the rest of this session to all of you amazing live people who were joining. And once again, I'm going to try really hard to get better on track with doing these each week. But lo and behold, there's a few things that someone has to do when they're starting their new office. Those of you who've chimed in a little bit late, this backdrop that I have right now is the Japanese gardens. It's beautiful. And it is, it's a tribute to all of the Japanese immigrants that came and settled in Lethbridge. And this is one of the central attractions here in my city. And this picture is not doctored. It is actually this beautiful. Now, obviously in the winter, it's not this lush and green, but it is a beautiful place. And so I wanted to showcase this. I want you guys to send me, and you can send it via message. You can send it to info@healthylaw.com. Send me your pictures of beautiful locations in your countries, and I'll broadcast from your country in an upcoming EE Live Q&A. All right. Okay, let's see who else we have here. As you're chiming in, make sure you leave a comment with where you're listening in from. Okay, wow, we've got a really good turnout today. I'm so happy. Okay, Chocolat. Oh, yes, I love that name, Chocolate. Awesome. From Qatar. Very, very cool. I'm excited to have my consult with you. Jit is from India. Awesome. Abdul is Bangladesh. Ralph says, nice haircut. Thanks, Ralph. It was this crazy Russian barber. That's who cut my hair this time. He had the clippers and he was like, I was wondering when he was starting to use the clippers up top, and he kind of got a little higher than I'm normally used to, but whatever. It's all good. The good thing about hair is, at least for us guys, it grows back and we can get away with pretty much anything. So thanks, Ralph. All right, Yusuf. Okay, he's tagging someone. Thank you, Yusuf, for letting other people know that we're live. And go ahead and do that too. Make sure that in the comment section, just tag your friends. Let them know that we're live, because I've been a little unpredictable lately. And some people may think, oh, Mark isn't going live today. But I am, so share it. All right, Marlon is Beastie. Good to see you, Marlon. Vikas is Latvia. Awesome. Evans is in Nairobi in Kenya. Wow, we've got just a really, really great group of people here today. And those of you who are typing in your comments and your questions already, hold off. We're going to get to those in just a few minutes. Okay, all right. So there we go. And we've got Lawrence from Guyana. Awesome, Lawrence. It's great to connect with you again, too. Okay. Now is the moment that I've been waiting for, and I'm sure all of you as well. I'm going to pull in my good friend here, Chris Chung, and you are live, Chris. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for bringing me on the spot here.
Awesome.
It's awesome to join you guys.
Very cool. So you guys are going to have to post some favorable comments, because it takes a lot of courage to get on here with this crazy immigration lawyer, Mark Holthe. And so to have Chris here, this is
been great.
Awesome.
You've been great, though.
So Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, well, let's start. So basically, my name's Chris. I actually grew up in the state. So my background, I've been living in Korea, in the U.S., Peru. I've been around the world for quite a while. So that was the only difficulty of immigrating to Canada, because I need to get my documents from all these countries. That was not easy in front of the process. And then also another perspective was my wife. She also been working with the government. So she's been around the world, probably 5 to 6 countries, and that also, we were getting a report for that, was chaos for us. But eventually we found our way through Mark. We got to here right now.
How did you track me down? Chris, how in the world did you find me?
Yeah, like when you actually start a Facebook group, I was one of the first few members
Mm,
when you started off.
yep.
And I was actually one of the first ones to reach out to you, and you were like, you were happy to join, help me out with it, because I was in the process. Kind of a strange, session where mine was not clear exactly. My job title was,
Yeah.
I was a commissioned officer in the military, but it was not in Canada, so it was abroad. So I don't know how that really worked
Yeah.
with my knock code.
So let's
So that
talk
was
about
chaos.
yeah, let's talk about that, Chris. So here's Chris's
Yeah.
problem. So he wanted to claim foreign work experience as a non-commissioned officer in the military for his country. And that's South Korea, right? I'm trying to remember.
That was back in, yeah, South Korea.
Yeah. And so he was wondering, will this work? And Chris went to one lawyer and wasn't
Hmm.
quite sure. And then he came
Right.
to me. And so I had to do a little bit of digging. Can we claim this? Because when you look at the knock, it says Canadian Armed Forces. It doesn't say another
Right.
country. And so I wasn't sure if the knock only, worked for a person that was in Canada. But in the end, we were able to figure out that yes, it did. And there was a little bit of uncertainty. So
Right.
we just put our best submission in, and it was awesome, and it worked out.
It was awesome.
And Chris also had the added issue of the comprehensive ranking system score going up and up, and the tough
Yes.
decision of deciding whether or not to include his spouse or not.
Mhm.
So
Right.
carry on, Chris. Tell us some more.
Yeah. So along with that, because since I grew up in the state, my English wasn't a problem for me. So I had like full score on the IELTS. So IELTS for me was fine, but my wife, her native language is Korean, and also her first, like, I guess, foreign language for her is Spanish, not English. So that was a problem for her getting the IELTS score that was necessary for her to immigrate together to Canada. And eventually, after waiting for 9 months of trying, we decided, you know what, it's better just to, I'll go first and then let's sponsor it. And Mark gave me an idea of, since you guys have country that has ETA with Canada, you could just come here as visitor first and then extend it, and then later on change it to spouse sponsorship. So you gave me the idea to do it, and
Yeah.
here I am right
Yeah.
now.
And that's the thing too. Like one thing that everybody needs to understand, and I should probably take an opportunity to kind of teach this. The government now is being very, very strict when it comes to listing your spouse as non-accompanying, and your particular explanation
Hmm.
why they're not being listed. And if you
Right.
put in your response, I'm trying to get a higher CRS score, you could be found to be non-genuine, to have misrepresented your application. And so
Mhm.
you have to really have a rational reason. And at the time when
Right.
Chris came, his spouse was employed. It
Yeah, she wasn't
wasn't,
working,
yeah, it
so
wasn't
yeah, she
super
was working full
convenient to
time,
come
and
anyway. So I wasn't
right.
counseling Chris to drop
Yeah.
his spouse off. It made
Right.
it made practical sense as well as legal sense. So,
Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah, that was it. So, but anyways, so now we're here. I'm still in a waiting process for my wife, but right now it's still for me to settle down here, getting a job, starting a new life here. So yeah, thanks to Mark, I'm here.
That's
So that's
so
great.
cool. Very, very cool. And Chris's was not a slam dunk. It was a tough one. So
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
yeah. So one thing I wanna ask. So now that you're here, so where did you
Hmm.
settle, Chris? Where did you
So
live?
right now I'm in Ottawa. Canada is a capital. I mean, but it's not like capital in most countries. It's very small compared to other capitals I've been to.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a suburb kind of feeling to it, and there's also bilingual system here. So there's French and English mixed together. So if I didn't know that part, but when you actually live here, you kind of have to learn to speak French.
Hmm.
So I'm doing that right now, trying a little bit
Cool.
of French here and there.
I tried
But
to
yeah,
get Chris.
it's
I tried to get Chris to come move to Lethbridge, but no. It unfortunately didn't work out. But I'm not giving up. So
right. But I mean, I think anywhere in Canada, I think when the people settle down, and when they found their footings into it, then it won't be too hard to adjust. I think it takes about 3 to some odd months to get figured into the system, but once you're in it, it shouldn't be a problem where you stand or where you land.
Mhm. So when it came to actually finding a job, how was that experience for you? Because that's what many of the listeners are
Yeah.
really, they're really concerned about, right?
Yeah, finding a job in Canada is not easy. It's not like there's like all this job open for you to take. Even I applied, especially for me, I landed in right after Canada's Day. It was Canada Day, I believe. It was July
July
1st.
1st, yeah.
It was like, and also during the summer session, not a lot of people are hiring because everyone's on vacation. All the HR departments are off, kind of thing. So for me, it was kind of delayed. So I didn't know that. So I start applying much as I can. I think I turned in about 15, 16 resumes here and there, had some interviews here and there as well, but it's not, the interview process is very slow as well. It's not like just like next day you're hired. It's more of like a couple of rounds of interviews going on. But yeah, I think once you find yourself getting the housing done, and then once you have banking, all that basic stuff done, and then once your focus is really on job, it's really, there's a lot of help they could get from the city and also the province government as well. I mean, I think Ottawa kind of offers few community service that helps you to write, like improve your resume or practice your interview and start studying stuff like that. So those could be beneficial if you could use those resources. And also if you're in, I guess before you move here, also trying to look around what industry or what sector that city you're trying to land has. So for example, like Ottawa is mainly governmental job or nonprofit. There is a sector also for IT, like tech industry, because there's Shopify and a few other sectors here, but mostly it's governmental job. So for immigrant, finding governmental job is not easy at all. So you gotta adjust. So I feel like a lot of people who landed here with me in Ottawa, some people actually moved to Toronto or Mississauga, or some maybe went to Calgary, Vancouver. They relocated.
Lethbridge.
Leverage. Right. So when you find a job, you just got to figure out what kind of sector you want to work in, what kind of experience you have, and you need to figure out where you want to land. Yeah, that's my recommendation for all of you guys.
Very cool. Okay, and if you have a question for Chris, now's the time to post it. Vicus says, how long did it take all for Chris's process? So your entire process and do you know what? I want you to tell people from the start when you actually started thinking about express entry, because people don't talk about the lead up to it.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was applying for express entry, I was in Peru. So we're in Peru. My wife and I were in Peru to work.
Just so everybody knows, so Peru, South America, that's where they were.
South America, yeah, Peru, South America. We were there. We decided, as we were getting into 30s, we were like thinking, you know what, it's time for us to settle down. Because our job was all over the world. So we decided it was time for us to settle down. And for me, my family wasn't back in state. So I was thinking of going back to state. And, there's Trump and all these issues that I had to do with. But anyways, so eventually we decided to come to Canada. So that was probably November of 2017 that when we decided to do thinking about immigrating to Canada. And around December-ish is when when I first thought about it was like February, and then we eventually went up to it. And then around December is a time when before I met Mark, I opened a CIC account. I should have waited a little longer, but I opened a CIC account December 2nd. And then I think I met Mark around like January or February-ish when I was started working on it. I decided, okay, I need help. So it wasn't like next day I could fill everything out. It's more I had questions, I need help. So I got Mark involved. And I think all my documents were ready to go by like August-ish, but my wife's IELTS score was not coming out. So eventually we just, as I said before, eventually worked through it. And on the October 10th, I got my invitation to apply ITA. It was, I think, a couple of days before we left Peru. So we're like, oh my God, we're finally leaving Peru, but now we get approved for ITA. So anyways,
yeah, horrible timing. Yeah,
horrible timing. Our goal was actually move eventually from Peru straight to Canada, but we eventually had to go back to Korea for work, and we were there in Korea. So November, I think around November 15th, that's when we filed all the paperwork. We filed all of it in. And I guess from that on, it was waiting period. Basically, it's just wait, and wait. So eventually on May 17, 2019, I got COPR. And then on July 2nd, I finally landed here. So if I'm thinking of all that term, probably it took me a good year and a half, I'll say, from the starting point to now to landing day. It was a year and a half will be about time. So if you're thinking of immigrating like within a couple months, it's not going to be that easy. I think once you even get, invitation apply, it just takes time to get your documents ready. It takes time for them to review. I think I emailed Mark about like 5 times, like, "Hey, Mark, there's no
He
answer
did.
from government."
He did. Yeah,
I
lots
was
and
like, "Hey,
lots.
I think something's wrong,
Yeah.
Mark. Like I'm running out of time here." Like so, because I mean, for me, I was working full time in Korea as well as my
Mhm.
wife's, and then we're just trying to figure out, okay, when do we need to tell our bosses that we're leaving, right? When do I need to tell my boss that I'm gonna leave and then give my notification?
Yeah.
But it just kept. I was like, okay, hopefully by the end of this month I could give a notification. It was like, nope, keep waiting. It was a waiting game, and I
Yeah.
think that's the hardest part for all of us.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. That waiting and patience. Because even
yeah.
now, and I know some people are already posting questions,
Hmm.
people are noticing that their applications are beyond 6 months, and that's the
Oh
case.
yeah,
They are
yeah.
starting to
There's,
push a little bit
I
past.
think, yeah. There. I mean, if we go to some online community, I think also Express Entry law group, there are people posting. I'm saying some people didn't get answer for 7 months or 8 months.
Hmm.
I think it was back when I was applying. It was the same thing for a lot of people. So for me, I mean, kind of new because I said before, I've been living in a different country quite a while, and also my wife. So that police record, I'm pretty sure for them to like Canadian government to go through all those police documents and all that stuff probably took time longer than others.
Yes.
But I think I got my COPR exactly, or I think a day before 6 month period. So it was like they actually filled up the whole 6 month period for me. So well, thank you. But anyways, but I got to a point where I am.
Awesome. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the listeners really benefited from your perspective and your experience. Congratulations
Mhm.
on finding a job in Ottawa in your
Thank you.
field, and I know the sky's going to be the limit for you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
And
I hope you guys, I mean, yeah, trust Mark. I mean, I think I called him, emailed him constantly, and I mean, he says, calm down, everything's gonna be fine. But I think when you're in the point of being immigrated, like it just, you have a lot of questions, uncertainty, an idea, and a perspective. But I think you just have to wait, and that's the thing, and then just give a trust to it, and then most people, you guys will be here in within a couple months. So,
awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
thank you.
Well, we'll let you go, but thank you for joining us,
Okay,
and all the best, my friend.
thank you too.
Okay,
Good
take
luck with
care.
your new law firm.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, bye.
All right. Well, that was awesome. I had a great opportunity there to invite Chris on, which is something that I just love doing. I love having our clients come and those who've interacted within our community. I've had people that have come on that have never even hired, my new firm, or hired me when I was in my previous firm. But it's just so wonderful to highlight the success stories that are out there. So thank you so very much. All right. And okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift a little bit of gears. And you can see once again, if you're tuning in the backdrop here, we have Nikayuko Japanese Gardens here in Lethbridge, Alberta. Who would have thought a place like this existed? And it is absolutely beautiful. And this is one of the things that makes me so proud of my city. I know you guys are all proud of yours. So send me an email. And you can send it to, if we go back into here, once again, you can send an email to info@healthylaw.com and just include an image from a beautiful location in your country. And I may very well do the next EE Live Q&A from that location. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to take and pull up the questions that came in via email. All right, so the first question that I have right now comes from Sundus. And Sundus says, and he's from Karachi. He says, "Hi, Mark. It's me, Sundus, from Karachi, Pakistan, and I'm almost 6 months post AOR. So he's just about at the 6-month time. He said, I called up an IRCC call center a few days back, and the agent said they're reviewing eligibility, and in theirs is a note that, like on their system, there's a note that reads, the case officer plans to finalize my application by the end of this month, January. What exactly does that mean? Your help would be greatly appreciated." Well, I can tell you, Sundus, that when it comes to this process and when it comes to the timing of getting your application approved, understand that 6 months is their target that they're shooting for, but it's entirely possible that it could go beyond 6 months, as we've seen out there. Many people are reporting that their applications are actually going a little bit past the 6 months. And so that's a target, and it all depends upon the demand And obviously we've had an election, we've had a lot of change within Canada over the last little stretch here. And sometimes that has some ripple effects within the programs as people are, their roles are shifted and they're transitioned around and new people run things and new systems, new processes. And there's been a lot of issues lately with the portal, with having difficulty logging in. And all of that plays a role in the efficiency of the adjudication process with express entry. So in your case, Sundus, I can tell you that if they're saying that the officer plans to finalize the application by the end of the month, well, take it at face value. Then more than likely they are actually going to be sending out a passport request at the end of the month. Now, that could mean they're going to start working on it and maybe it's the beginning of February. But with any luck, Sundus, it's going to happen for you right away. So make sure you come back and you send an email, jump on live on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page and let us know when you get that passport request. Post it in the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. And many of you are probably already a member of that, but make sure you go on and request to join and become a member and just share your success, share your stories. Okay, next question here. And those of you who are getting ready to post questions, I want you to hold off just until I get through these and then we can jump in and answer all of your live questions. All right, next here is, this one is from, so we've got Sundus. Okay, this one's from Muhammad. And Muhammad says, glad to hear your new law firm is recently launched and hope for the best for your website as well. Yes, and as you can see, the website is a work in progress and I have an awesome idea of how I'm going to create it. Over the weekend, I just had this, I guess you could call it an epiphany. My poor web developers, who I'm going to once again give a huge shout out for, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Right here, I'm going to pull them up. Here they come, Parrot Solutions. These guys are so awesome, and they have already started designing all of the infrastructure, but it's me, Mark Holthe, who's delaying the whole process. But they're doing everything. They're the ones who created my logo and my branding, and they're doing the web development. They're helping with literally everything within my office, and I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with them. And how did I connect? Because they're members of the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. The principals of the company are individuals that have gotten to know me through YouTube and kind of have an idea of what I stand for and the approach I take with representing people, and it really resonated with them. So because of that, they reached out and said, hey, we'd love to work with you. And it's been just awesome. So thank you so much once again to Parrot Solutions, who are the web developers and the creative genius behind my new website that's coming. Those of you who are wondering, what is your site, Mark? You'll see this as I jump in here. This is it right now, which really is nothing compared to what it's going to be. But this is where you can go to actually book a consultation with me. And there's basic information there. And there's even a link here to pay the consult fee, which all is designed to make the process streamlined and easier for all of you. Okay, so back to the question that was asked. Thank you, Muhammad, for inquiring. And it's in poor Parrot. They've been so patient with me, but they're like, come on, Mark, we're just waiting to get this done. So I'm trying to balance everything with setting up the new firm and getting the content. And so I thanks for Parrot for the patience, and for all of you guys. You're going to love the new site. Okay. So Muhammad says, I want to ask you that I recently added my spouse's family name on her NIC and passport. And so national identity card, I think, is the NIC, and remained the previous name on her educational documents. So even her marriage certificate as well, because at the time of marriage, her name was single, no family name. So in this case, what documents do we need to provide? Okay, so what Muhammad is asking is, there's a question that says, have you used a different name? And so in the EAPR, when you're completing it for you or your spouse, if you say yes, then you'll provide the previous name. And in the case of Muhammad, after the marriage, it took some time to get the surname. And I'm not sure if it's, if that surname is, well, it just takes time to get that added. And so that was the case. So now Muhammad is saying, well, what documents do we provide? Well, really, it's not a big deal. When you're adding a new name after marriage, the marriage certificate is usually the one that we use more often than not, because that marriage certificate is the thing that causes a lot of people in many countries to change their last name. So both individuals, both husband and wife, or both spouses, as the case may be, have the same last name. It's not always the case, but in many countries it is. So marriage certificate for sure, which you're already including in the application. It's not a problem with the education documents being in the other name. A simple letter of explanation, as long as you word it properly, can resolve and clarify any concerns an officer may have. So that is the answer, Mohammed. So when it comes to adding a name after marriage, that marriage certificate, the documents with the recent name, which you've indicated here that you've changed it on our NIC and passport, all of that is totally fine. And that's the best way to approach it. So, all right, great question. Okay, Mady asked this question. Okay, I will try to ask 2 questions for the next EE Live session. Hopefully they will be considered. Okay, Mady, I'm going to answer 1 because I want to give time for everybody. So Mady says, my question is regarding the personal history section. The government is asking to provide our history, including work, military status, and there's education on there, periods of unemployment. So all of that goes in your personal history section. And he says they're asking this for the last 10 years. Will we be requested to provide evidence or a reference letter, is what he's asking, for the work history that we did not provide in the work history section of the EE profile? The short answer, Mady, is no, not at all. Only the work history that you list in your work history section will require you to actually provide a reference letter or pay stubs or anything to support it. The information you're putting in your personal history is just that. It's just information to let the government know what you were doing. All right? Okay. Now we're going to jump to Abhinav. And Abhinav says, hi, Mark. Hope you're doing well. I previously took your consultation to apply for Express Entry, and I've been living in Toronto for about a year now. Woo! That is awesome. I'm going to have to invite Abhinav to join us as well. So like Chris, the previous guest, said, many people that were coming to Ottawa, many were struggling to find a job, so they moved to Toronto, and under the Express Entry general provisions, you can live wherever you want except Quebec because you specifically need to establish that you have an intention to live outside the province of Quebec when you're going through the Express Entry system. So for anyone else, you can live anywhere you want in Canada. It's just the provincial nominee programs where you must live in the country that nominated, in the province that nominated you. So he says, I've been living in Toronto for about a year now. So that's awesome, Abhinav. And I do remember our consultation. I'm actually planning to get married in a few months. Wow, that's cool. I wanted to understand on my options to get my future wife to Canada, and she should be able to work without a lot of delay. She's a software professional working in the US and would be eligible to get Express Entry on her own. Here are some of the things I came up with on my research. So this is where Abhinav is actually probably asking for more information. This is almost like a consultation, and I'd actually ask you, Abhinav, to just call in, request a new consult, and we can go over everything in detail. But for individuals who are in this situation, in most cases, it's a spousal sponsorship. So as a permanent resident, you must remain in Canada. You can't go and live with your spouse while you're waiting for the sponsorship to go through, unless you're a Canadian citizen. Permanent residents must remain in Canada. And so in the case of Abhinav here, yeah, you can start the process to sponsor your spouse. But here's the issue. It can take up to a year for that to happen. How long is Express Entry? Well, if you have everything organized and everything in place, theoretically, it could happen in as little as 6 months. So that's one of the first things you might want to consider. If your spouse, Abhinav, does have the ability to immigrate through Express Entry on her own, of course, disclosing you fully, then it may be faster to go through Express Entry than to actually sponsor her. So that's definitely something to consider. And for everyone else, it's about a year, like I said, to sponsor a spouse. And there are documents that the government likes to see, that you're settled in Canada, that you have a job, that you've paid taxes. And there is ways to work around that if you do not yet have a tax filing yet. But ultimately, that's kind of how we look at it. If there's a faster way other than spousal, and then we'll consider that. But spousal sponsorship is the most secure way of getting your spouse here. Now, I will put out an advisory to all of you. If you are currently married when you submit your electronic application for permanent residence, that spouse must be examined. That spouse must be included in your application, disclosed. Even if they're considered to be non-accompanying, They still have to have their police certificates completed, their medicals done, and provide basic information for the purposes of the application. And as I alluded to in the beginning, you must be really careful when you're explaining why that spouse is non-accompanying. Recently, I had a consultation with someone who used a consultant, and the consultant, I don't know if they just weren't thinking or just didn't know. And that's sometimes the problem. There's lots of really good consultants out there that are very good at what they do, but there is a vast majority of them that are not. And they just don't understand the intricacies of immigration law. In this case, they told the client to just say that they're listing their spouse as non-accompanying. Why? Well, to get more CRS points. Well, the problem was that that individual was already in Canada on a visitor record, and their spouse was in Canada with them as well on a visitor status. And they indicated, that the points were there. They were trying to get more points, and that's why they listed the spouse as non-accompanying. Now, there's always other factors at play. It's not just because you state one thing that an officer makes one decision. But because of everything, then they got a fairness letter and even an allegation of misrepresentation for stating my spouse isn't coming when they're already here. So you have to be very, very careful with that. Okay. All right. Great question, Abhinav. And those questions right there are the ones that we are going to cover. And I'm going to spend the rest of the time answering your live questions. So go ahead now, post those. And I'm super excited because we're going to jump right in and we're going to start answering your live questions. And I'm also going to take the time, whatever it takes here, as I'm getting a little bit more situated here, whatever it takes, we're going to answer the questions of the awesome people that have been so patient and have been waiting to get theirs answered. And I also want to say thanks to all of the amazing people that are tuned in. We've got a really phenomenal turnout right now. Okay, so we'll start with JR. So JR says, how often does the express entry points change? Change to lower it down. Okay, let's take a look at this. I think now is the appropriate time to share my screen with you guys again. And I'm just going to get to the proper screen here. Okay, I want to go to CRS, and then I'm just going to type in rounds of invitations, okay? And when I do that, we're going to take a look at the scores. We're going to take a look at a couple things that are important for all of you guys to know. So most recently, everybody knows that on January the 22nd, there was a draw, and the draw was 471. You can go back here and see all the previous rounds of invitations. So in this case, and we can probably make this a little bit bigger here so that everybody can see it a little bit better. I don't think that logo will interfere. If you go in here and you look, you can see, and I'm actually going to just push this down so that we're on the right one. Okay, so you can see here in the past draws, there was one at 473. This was the lowest one that it has been in a long, long time. And you can see here that this last draw was right near the end of the year. So I don't know if there's a pattern there where the government says, okay, we have this many nominations that have been, or invitations that have been sent out. We probably need a little bit more. So we're going to lower it just a touch to do a little bit of a bigger scoop. Now, 3,200, 3,400, it's right around there, 3,500. So based on the timing of the draws, and you can see here, they did right here with this one. This is no program specific. So they did one December 19th, and then they did one December 11th. So they did them kind of quick. And so 469 was the drop here, but 472. So you can see the scores here, right? 471, it's been kind of hovering, 472. We go back to October, 475. And then don't be deceived at this one, because this one was an actual federal skilled trades, and they usually do those about 2 a year. And we've got meetings coming up with the government to talk about federal skilled trades and and kind of the state of the land, how many people they're actually looking to invite. And right now it's been 2 draws of 500 each. But as we go through, you can see 464 back in, and that was October the 2nd, 2019. I'm just not sure what's going to happen here. I'm not sure if it's going to drop down to 464 again. 462, even 463. But we have to go all the way back. If those of you who are sitting at 450, lower than 460 points, the last time it dropped, 457 was back in August. So I want you to understand that there are it's all supply and demand. People that have, I'm going to go back to the main screen here, individuals in the pool, you can see. So right before the last draw, so this was before January the 20th, 2020, this is when the score was distributed. And then you can see that draw happened January 22nd. So based on this here, you can see that the allocations. So people that have actually a provincial nomination, there were 778. That's really what this 600 comes to. Now, some people might have, anyone who's over 500, it usually means they've got some French language ability. But generally speaking, you can see between 451 and 600, there are 19,000 people. And so what that means is it's unbelievably unlikely that anyone is going to get drawn under 460 points. Well, I shouldn't say that, but based on the rounds, they've been hovering around 470. And when you look at the factors affecting this, if you look here, 441 to 450, they haven't even updated this significantly. You can see 441 to 450 they have here. But what they really should do now is they should create another category that's from 450 to 500. Because that range right now is really what this used to be last year. So now the rounds are, they're doing this small little segmented number because that's where the draws used to be. But now it's really up above 450. So it's in this range. So this is the one that they really should break down more, but they don't. And so you can see in this range, there are just a ton of people. And so based on that, you have to understand that there are so many people wanting to come. And when you're looking to immigrate yourself, you can pretty much assume that the scores are not going to drop down a long ways. And so when you ask your question, how often does it change to the lower? Well, you can see there's draws every couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Usually they're on Wednesdays, but not always. But when it comes to what the future holds for express entry, understand we have over 470,000 international students in Canada. And in the past, everyone who didn't qualify for express entry and knew how hard it was to get a job offer decided, I'm going to go to school. And now Canada has this big balloon of international students that are working their way through. Once you get your international student credential, once you get your education in Canada, your program, then you're eligible for a postgrad work permit. And so those people get points, 15 or 30 points for education. They get another 35 or 40 or more for Canadian work experience. And that's what's driving this total up. So those of you who are waiting for it to come down, it's going to be really, really unlikely. And I could dedicate a whole podcast to talking about the intricacies of express entry, where it's going, the likelihood of you succeeding. But generally speaking, I'd say 3 out of the 10 consults that I do a day are probably about people wondering how to increase their score, how to qualify, the various provincial nominee options. So if you want that, I highly recommend that you actually consider going right to my page here and filling out this schedule a consultation form and booking a consult where I can go through it with you. And you can see I charge $200. It's $210 basically with tax for a 25-minute consultation. But in that consult, we cover everything. We talk about everything that you could possibly need to know or want to know. And I even teach you things that you probably didn't even think to ask about in those consults. They're super efficient, super effective, and don't be deceived about that 25 minutes, because 25 minutes of solid teaching, educating, helping you to understand what you need to do to navigate express entry, and most importantly, whether or not you're in a position where it's just not going to happen. And sometimes that's as important as anything, to say Canada isn't going to be an option for you anytime soon. And to be able to receive that information and then govern yourself accordingly, figure out if you're going to stay in Canada or if you're going to stay in your home country or look to another country. That's just as important as any other advice you can get, even if I have to tell you that you don't have an option. Okay, let's continue down here. That was a long one, but I think it was really important for the listeners. Okay, this one is Afsar. He said, hey, Mark. Okay, a consultant once told me that for CEC, if candidate acquires 1,560 hours before 1 year, then he is eligible for applying through EE. Well, when it comes to 1,560 hours, the reality is you need 1 year of full-time work experience. And you can go and you can look at the eligibility yourself. Let's go take a look at it, okay? And because I don't want you just to accept whatever people tell you. I want you to go through the process and actually educate yourself. I want clients who are intelligent, who understand the process. And I spend a lot of time teaching them, because I don't want clients that just say, oh, Mark, just figure it out. Just go take care of it. I don't want to know anything. Those are not my clients. I want clients who actually are interested in learning and collaborating with me. And that's the direction that my practice is going. I no longer will do a full, well, let me put it this way. I have a far better way of representing people than I think anyone is currently doing out there in the market. And if you want to learn more about it, stay tuned for the website that's going to launch. And for those of you who have booked what I used to call my silver plan, that silver plan is really my platinum plan now. Because of some of the things that I do now, it is so much more efficient, so much more effective than doing any other form of representation. Okay, so let's take a look at this, because it comes down to the work history. We know self-employed and work experience gained as a full-time student doesn't count. So if we go to language ability, admissibility, you can see right here what it takes to require is you need to have at least 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada in the last 3 years. So it doesn't need to be continuous, okay? It must be full-time or an equal amount in part-time. What does that mean? It means that generally speaking, you're going to need to have right around 2 years of skilled work experience. But let's take a look and see what it means, okay? So here is the answer. Your experience must be at least 1 year of full-time work, okay? 30 hours per week for 12 months equals 1,560 hours. So that's the baseline. So if your consultant said 1 year, okay, well, this consultant said you could actually make your 1 year earlier if you accumulated the 1,560 hours earlier. But I want to show you why that's not true. Because if you look here, we don't count any hours you work above 30 hours per week. So 30 hours per week, for 12 months equals 1,560 hours. So if you can't count those extra 10 if you're working 40 hours per week, then there's no way that consultant's advice to you is accurate. And once again, this is the issue that I have. I would, when it comes to this consultant, I wish they really weren't practicing, because if they don't understand something as simple as that, then they really should not be representing people. And I have no issues with good, educated, quality, experienced consultants who know the law, who can interpret legislation, who can read the instructions, and who care. I don't have issues with them. The problem I have is that the vast, vast majority don't take the time to really educate themselves. They only know what to do because of past practice. In other words, they filed 10 applications and 3 of them got refused for various reasons. And then they learn, oh, I guess I better not do that again because the 3 previous ones I submitted were wrong. What a horrible, horrific way of practicing. But in many cases, they rely entirely on experience instead of actually reading and understanding the law. And this isn't even law. This is immigration policy that just takes the time to go on the website and look. But some they just don't do it. And I will readily admit that not all immigration, well, let me put it this way. Not all lawyers are created equally. So if you're dealing with a general practitioner lawyer who's dabbling in immigration, yeah, they may not know any more than you do about the process. The only difference that I would say is that if that lawyer, that generalist, screwed up on your application, you could go to the Law Society and they would be severely reprimanded. I can't say anything about the consultant organization. I don't know what it's going to end up being. All I know is right now it has virtually no teeth to protect you. If a consultant botches your application, the remedies that are available to you to get your money back or otherwise don't exist. When it comes to the Law Society, yeah, those things are all available to you. But aside from that, what I'm saying is, if you're dealing with an immigration lawyer, they better know this. And I would have to wager that the vast majority, if you are dealing with an immigration lawyer, a lawyer who only practices in this area, this is not even going to be an issue. They will understand. Okay, next one. This one here. So the answer, Afsar, is 100% no, not at all. You must work the full year. Okay, Vika says, bye, sir. I have to go home now. Finish work shift. See you next week. See you later, Vikas. Okay, Des Quezada says, hi, I'm an administrative assistant in Dubai. No family in Canada. What's the best way to enter Canada? Well, Des, at this stage, the direction that everybody has to look first is express entry. And one thing I'll show you guys too that I think I haven't really advertised very much in the past. there is the IRCC. I call it the Come to Canada tool. And I will post this in the comment section. But this is, and use the one, do you want to come to Canada as a skilled immigrant? So this is a very simple way. It's not 100% foolproof. Sometimes it can give you false positives. In other words, it can say you're eligible when you're not, or based on the answers you give, it can also say that you're ineligible when you are. So it's not perfect, but it's a good source for people who are trying to get a general idea. And so I've just posted that in the comment section, but you come here and then Des, you can check your eligibility right here. And it follows you through a number of questions to see if you're actually eligible. Well, let me rephrase that. Apparently, there's a reason I haven't gone to this for a long time, because it doesn't even connect. Oh, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, I guess you're going to have to book a consultation with me right here, and then I can tell you about all your options, Des. So just go here to holthylaw.com, and it will take you exactly to this page, where you can book a consult. And in 25 minutes, I can get you all set up. We can even assess your eligibility. I can give you direction on the prospects, whether you have an option or a chance to immigrate, or whether it's really low and you really should focus your attention on going somewhere else. Okay. All right. Fazia says, what is the difference between eligibility met, eligibility recommend pass, and eligibility pass? Is it all the same? What does basically the background check means in processing a PR application? Okay. So eligibility means that they are assessing whether or not you meet the minimum entry criteria of one of the federal programs, the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Canadian Experience Class, or the Federal Skilled Trade Program. So eligibility is when they go to assess it. And I'll give you an example once again. I'll share my screen again, and we'll go to the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility. Let's see if I got this right here. Oh, I didn't. Federal Skilled Worker Program, and then eligibility. Eligibility is basically whether or not you meet the requirements to, if you're outside of Canada and you're applying as a skilled worker, these are the eligibility requirements. Now, I always go back to the regs. I always review exactly what the law is, but this is the way that the government helps to kind of dumb it down so that everybody can understand. And this is how the program works, you can see here. And then it talks about this eligibility right here, these pass mark. And the selection factors are very similar to what the comprehensive ranking system is, but it's not the same. So they assess to see if you meet the minimum requirements right here to qualify under the Federal Skilled Worker Program. If you're outside of Canada, Fazia, that's what the minimum entry criteria are. That's step one. They also go through and assess, if we go here, oh, not CRS tool, CRS criteria. That's what I want. So right here with the CRS criteria, they also go through and they evaluate to see if you actually have all of the proof to substantiate the points that you were granted under the comprehensive ranking system. So these core human capital factors are what, as well as information for the spouse and the skill transferability factors, as well as all of these additional points, all of those are added up to comprise your complete comprehensive ranking system score. And the government will go through there and see if you can actually prove through your reference letters, through your ECAs, through all of those things that you meet the minimum entry criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, and that you have enough proof to confirm that you actually were awarded properly your comprehensive ranking system score. Okay. And then that differs from the security, which you're talking about here, because security screening, that all comes down to the background check or security screening. That's your medical, that's your police clearances. And different countries, it takes longer times. And so that fluctuates depending upon where you're coming from. All right. Okay. Eddie tags Sharif. Awesome. Hopefully Sharif was able to join us. Dorcas says, hey, hello. Moisedine says, hi, Mark. Joined from Vancouver. Great. Awesome. Hopefully it's a lot warmer there than it was a few weeks back. Okay. Is it mandate for a student to get a job and knock 0A and B while applying for postgraduate work permit in order to have their spouse open work permit? Okay. Yes, Moisedine, 100%. That is the case. You have to be working in at least a skill level, well, a skilled occupation, 0A or B. This one actually drifts outside of it drifts outside of the actual confines of what we're talking about here in terms of express entry. But the short answer, Moisedine, is 100%. In order for your spouse to get the open work permit, you must be working in a skilled occupation. And in order for them to get that work permit, you have to be able to prove with a reference letter that you're actually working in a skilled position. All right. If you don't, it won't work. All right. Jerome says, hey, do I check my scores even before I start application? Absolutely. I would check to make sure that you even have, if you have a chance. If your scores are in the low 300s, you're going to have a very, very low likelihood of success. It's not impossible. And I want to advise everybody that I actually do have something that in the past I've called my Bronze Plus plan, something that I created just recently because I realized that there was a need. The Bronze Plus plan essentially is for $1,500 Canadian. I help you to go through all of your documents and to set up your profile 100% correct. And it may be that you never receive an ITA, but because some provinces are now pulling people based on their occupation and their work experience alone, or at least they're giving them notification of interest, it makes sense for people to actually submit a profile and to make sure all their documents are correct, because those same documents, if there are drawn, will be needed for the purposes of getting the provincial nomination after this notification of interest comes from the province. So it's another option that I'm offering to my clients. Once again, it's just me and them working collaboratively to get things done. And I call that my Bronze Plus plan. And right now it's at $1,500 Canadian plus 5% GST, whatever that is. All right. And GST is sales tax. And I want to also point out, if you're using a consultant or a lawyer in any other province, I'm not sure what all of them are, but I can tell you 5% in Alberta is the cheapest. No one is lower all across the country. Okay. So there's another discount. Okay. All right. Chocolate says, need your advice, Mark, on the education, since Wes gave me a diploma of 3 years, even after I explained to them that my physical therapy degree is 5 years in the Philippines, and I transferred schools after my second year in college, but still they only review my last 3 years. Can I claim a bachelor's degree and indicate on LOE this discrepancy on Wes' report? No, Chocolate. Whatever Wes says you have, that's what you've gotten. And understand that the credential, I haven't been able, I can't quite tell exactly what you're saying here, but it's, if you look at the education, and let's go back to the criteria, and I'm going to share my screen here. The options that they have when it comes to education, as we get to the specific breakdown here. Okay, so as we get to the breakdown, you can see here, it says bachelor's degree or a 3 or more year program at a university, college, trade, or technical school. So technically speaking, 3 years should give you the same as if it was another bachelor's. So you should be getting the same level of credential. If they gave you 3 years, whether it's 3 years or 4 years is irrelevant. Okay. All right. We'll go back here. Ozifa says, I love you, friend. Oh, well, thank you so much, Azifa. I love you too. All right. Brian says, hi, Mark. Is it possible to create 2 express entry profiles? The first one is my wife's profile as a primary applicant, and the second one would be my profile. Okay. So basically, Brian, I always counseled people not to do this in the past, but I'm going to tell you something. I actually am starting to advise people to do that if you know that you're not ranking high enough to get an ITA, because the comprehensive ranking system rounds of invitations being over 470 are too high for you to meet. The reason I do that is because it may be that one of the provinces is looking for a particular occupation that either you or your spouse have. And in those cases, Brian, both you and your spouse would be a principal applicant, with each other being an accompanying spouse in each other's applications. And that's why you submit it that way. Maybe Alberta, for instance, one of the provinces that extends passive notifications of interest, may very well consider you because your occupation is in an area that is of shortage in that province. So in those cases, Brian, the Bronze Plus plan, like I said, I can walk you through the whole process, how to set it up. And for all of you, whenever you want to connect with me and you want to engage me, even if you say, Mark, I just want to hire you, it always starts with a consultation. And some people get a little frustrated. They're like, Mark, I just want to hire you. Just let me give you the money. And I always say no, because I have to make sure 100% everything always starts with a paid consultation to start with. After that paid consultation, then I have to determine if I feel comfortable proceeding forward with your representation and that you actually have a chance of succeeding. I am not one of those representatives out there that just is happy to take your money because you're eligible right? What does eligible mean? Eligible means you can put your profile into the pool, but it may mean you're never ever going to get drawn out of it. Okay, great. Okay. Chocolate also says for the qualified to practice section on express entry profile, can I claim that I was able to change my knock from 1222 to 1221 due to promotion? Or is this section only applied to certain trades? You have to answer that section, but just pick the minimum education or experience you needed to fill the position. It's not a contentious area. Just make sure that it's kind of roughly matches exactly what you required. It says the minimum education in the knock profile, and that's kind of a guideline. So if it says you don't need education in there, then it's going to be high school probably. Okay. Okay, Mahesh says, how can I prove my experience as a self-employed person and which documents do I need for that? Mahesh, this is 100% an area that you need to have a consultation. I'll show you guys very quickly one of my favorite sites of all. It's called the completeness check with right here. And I'm going to also post this. I know many of you probably know where it is. I'm going to post this in the comment section. And I'm sorry for you watching this on YouTube. You're not seeing this, but you can just search for what you see here. Applications for permanent residence. Okay. So here we have the information I'm looking for. And we're going to go down here and we're going to go to work. Let's see if I can find the right page here. Okay. I'm going to go find. I'm going to type in work. Okay, so proof of work experience. There's very little guidance or instruction or direction that IRCC gives for people who are, and I'm going to share my screen with you. There we go. Sorry. I keep forgetting when I'm sharing and when I'm not. So application for permanent residence program subject to the express entry completeness check. Okay, so that's what you can search for. Then once I'm here, then I'm going to search for work. And then I go down here to proof of work experience. So you can scroll down and find it if you want. But you can see here when it comes to self-employed work experience, there is just a little bit of a blurb right here. That's all the instruction that they give. So if the applicant is self-employed, it says articles of incorporation or other evidence that the business actually exists and you own it. Evidence of self-employed income. So what is that? Well, maybe you filed taxes or you've got bank statements or whatever you can to prove that. Documentation from third parties indicating that the service was provided along with pay details. So invoices that you sent out, any instructions or any description of the service that you provided, and then their payments back to you. And so at the end of the day, if you're trying to prove the 3 years of skilled foreign work experience, this is really the basis for what you're trying to prove. But trust me, it's way more complicated even than this to try to get it through. Because right off the bat, immigration, they really want independently verified information. And you can see right at the end, self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable proof of self-employed work experience. So how do you prove that you've actually performed the duties? Well, that comes down to indicating the service provided. And it needs to be from third-party individuals. So, for example, I've worked my way through people who were musicians, professional musicians, right, with philharmonics and orchestras. You know, they often worked freelance, or people online who work freelance with IT or all those kinds of things. The key is to be able to show or get letters from your clients or the orchestra that you play for. Letters confirming your actual duties and what you did. And the key here, above all, and this once again could be a whole different discussion, and I know I'm getting really deep into the weeds here, but these items right here, job title, duties and responsibilities, job status, dates worked for the company, number of work hours per week, and annual salary plus benefits, that's really what the government wants. That's the ideal. So as a self-employed person, you need to find ways to prove all of these things through the use of these and or other things, okay? But you can't just say, I did this in a statement, in an affidavit. They won't accept it. All right, great question. And Mahesh, as always, with all my clients, I'm more than happy to book a consult to go through that with you. Okay, Christina says, hi, Mark. What if work experience and a degree doesn't match? My work doesn't require any licenses. I am a software quality engineer, but have masters in law. Christina, when it comes to accounting Canadian work experience, I think I deleted the ministerial instructions. Okay, well, I could take you to the regulations, but all that they're focused on is whether or not you performed all of the activities in the lead statement. So if we go here, oh, I'm not even going to search this. Have you guys tried to get the knock 2016 with your Chrome browser? It is a miserable failure. I have to go in with Safari and do it. So let me shift my screen here, see if this comes up. Okay, I have to switch to my Safari browser because when I go to this site, it always locks up. It's brutal. So if I go here and I search, and the question here from Christina, she says that she's a software quality engineer. I'm just going to say software engineer and see if we can pull anything up here. If we search title. Hey, we did. Okay, so we'll just go here, software engineer. This is probably the one she's looking at. And as I scroll down, you must show that you've performed all of the activities in the lead statement. That's this. And a substantial number of the main duties, which is this. So typically I'll say about 75% is kind of the rough estimate. It could be less or more depending on the number. If you have anything that says may lead, then that's not a mandatory duty. So I don't count that in the total. I actually count this when I'm calculating substantially the same, or sorry, a substantial number of the main duties. I'm crossing over LMIAs and express entry, and all these acronyms are floating in my brain. Okay, so then it comes down to here. She says, can I prove, what if my work experience and degree doesn't match? So you can see here, bachelor's degree is usually required, may be required master's, licensing to practice as a professional engineer, you eligible for registration, experience as a computer program is usually required. Even in Canada, to work in this occupation, there is no minimum requirements to do it. So for your position, but understand when it comes to the express entry and the federal skilled worker program or federal skilled trade or Canadian experience class, this here actually, when it comes to calculating your foreign work experience, well, let's just stick with the foreign work experience, which is your situation, Christina. I'm running out of air here. You only need to show that you've done these duties in your reference letter. The education doesn't apply. All right, let's go to Masood here. Masood says, hello, Mark, nice background. Thanks, my friend. Why do paper applications take so long compared to the EE? Masood, it's because the government doesn't give as much priority to them. Express entry is heralded as this fast track awesome thing. So their position is they want people to be able to complete the express entry process in right around 6 months. And that's where they're advertising to the world. Come to Canada, we'll give you your PR fast. When it comes to the paper-based applications, often people are already in Canada. So for example, under the PNPs, paper-based, they're often in Canada. And if it's one of the programs where you're outside of Canada, but it's a paper-based application through the PNPs, they just say, well, that's not a priority for us. We're not in a hurry to process your application, and that's just a decision of the government. Okay. Okay, Afsar says, actually, he was a Canadian immigration lawyer that I met in Pakistan. Afsar, I seriously doubt that, my friend. Go ahead and post right here in the comments who this Canadian immigration lawyer was that advised you. And I think this is the question where you received advice that you could actually count the 1,560 hours in less time. Why would he be advising you that? Maybe I'm confusing them. Afsar, I'm not quite sure if your question was about calculating CEC in 1,560 hours, less than a year. I can't remember. Anyways, post their name. I don't care. Okay. Arbaz says, hey there, Mark. Got a web form response from CPC Ottawa, and it says that the file is in the queue for a review. Eligibility is review required. Okay, I'll already passed 6 months. When should I expect my file to be picked? I recommend that you do an access to information request, get the GCMS notes, because review required means that they've got an issue with something and the original officer is not able to make a decision easily. So they have to do some further investigation. Usually it's work history more often than not. So do an ATIP and get the GCMS notes and figure out what the issue is. Once you figure it out, be proactive and give them whatever they're looking for before they even ask for it. I've done that lots of times. All right, Ruth says, are pay slips required to prove compensation? My only proof of compensation is my passbook, but that only reflects the name of my previous employer as source of funds, but the name is not in English. Ruth, the specific specific instructions of immigration is that that pay stubs you're to provide them if they're available. So it's not mandatory. Now, if you have, it's difficult for them to verify your employment experience, then pay stubs often are really important to be able to do that. But when it comes to individuals who are who come from companies where they're well recognized, where it's easy to verify that you actually worked for them, the reference letter may be all that you need. But the instructions, when you go to your personal document checklist, it specifically says in the little radio button you click by your employment records, it says to provide pay stubs if they're available. So they're not mandatory. But like I said, it all depends on your situation. If the government thinks you need more evidence to prove you actually worked and were paid to do that skilled occupation that you're claiming. Okay, Mozidin says, hi, hello. Olule is tagging someone. Awesome. Okay, Masood says, PCC query. UAE PCC is valid for 3 months only. Okay, so I'm not even going to go any farther reading this. If the police certificate says it has an expiry date, Canada doesn't care. They go by, basically, if you're in the country, they're valid for 6 months of your current country of residence. As long as you've never returned back to the country that issued the police certificate, it doesn't expire. All right, Masood slipped in another one. He said, can a PNP nominee Outland Skill C apply for spouse open work permit? No. Some programs, some PNP programs, when they issue the nomination, also have the ability to issue an open work permit for the principal applicant and that spouse to come to Canada. But those are extremely rare, and I haven't seen those being issued very frequently. Okay. Mohammed says, hi, Mark, part-time overseas experience during bachelor's is considered for EE. Sure, you can include part-time work experience. That's not a problem at all. If we go back here, and I'll click on this, and let's see, which one is this? Okay, this is Canadian experience class. Let's see if I have it opened up here. Okay, here's the federal one. You'll see specifically when you look at foreign work experience, when you're trying to claim skilled work experience, you can see here that an equal amount in part-time, at least 15 hours per week for 24 months is totally fine. And then it gives further instructions, and this may be where some people are getting confused. You can work more or less than 15 hours per week as long as it adds up to 1,560 hours. All right. Okay, good question. We'll jump back here. All right, and we're cruising. We're making some good headway here. Actually, I better just take a quick peek and just make sure I don't have another appointment coming up. I think, see when my first consults are. Yes, I have 5 consults this afternoon. Actually 4 I've got. So right now I'm just trying to block it off so I can make sure I get my work done until I decide to hire some other people. So I've got 4 consults lined up. First one starting at 2 o'clock. So we have just a little bit of time, but I would like to get something to eat today. So I may, close this off a little bit here because we're already into almost an hour and 15 minutes. But I really want to reward those people who have stuck around. So let me see if I can zip through these a little bit quicker. Excuse me. Okay. Brian says, thanks, Mark. Great help. You're welcome, Brian. My pleasure. Yusuf says, my spouse has a relative in Alberta. Does it be considered a strong connection to the province? Well, it might. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a connection. They'll give it weight depending on all the factors that they look at. But having family in the province where you're applying, yeah, that makes a difference. Okay, Christina Sai says 2283. Okay, same principles apply, Christina. So whether it's software engineer or the 2283, same principles apply. You can go through, the education doesn't need to match, but as far as when you're matching up your duties, you have to have been able to perform a substantial number of those main duties. So you can just go through and follow that same path that I just explained. All right, let's see here. Marwin says, Knock is not working on Chrome. It freezes my computer as well. Yeah, exactly. And maybe it is a Mac. Maybe it's a Mac issue. I haven't tried it. I think it also froze my PC. Anyways, piece of junk. I don't know why they do that. Okay, Mahesh says, thanks for your reply earlier. It was really helpful as I am working as a sole trader, which is a local business, not an incorporated company. So I am unable to provide articles of incorporation. Well, then, and I see you've got a whole bunch of things here, Mahesh. I recommend you book a consult so we can go through them because there are other things that you can provide. Do you have a website? Do you have other proof that your business actually operates? Do you file taxes? And how do you file those taxes? There's a whole bunch of other things that we look at, but it's really specific to each person. Okay, Urfa says, if post ITA, placeholder doesn't specify name of each country for police certificate, so attaching one and then second country, will it be okay? Urfa, I'm actually not sure what you're talking about. I'm a little confused. Some document checklists will flip between a descriptive one that specifically lists the country that relates to the police certificate, and then this other generic one where it just says police certificate 1, police certificate 2. And so you want to upload to the section that relates to your actual police certificate. And there's some little tricks to kind of trigger it to produce the more descriptive document checklist, but it's the bane of my existence. It's a real frustrating aspect. Okay, Raman says, any chance CRS coming down to 456? Nope, I don't see the general ever coming down that low, Raman. Not now with our over 740,000 international students. Kawaja, what chances do you see for 460 plus? Good question. Really tough. Really tough to see it going down, down to 460. Ruth says, thank you for answering my question. I really appreciate it. You're very welcome. Chocolate says, thank you, Mark. Got the EE DIY guide and loving the step-by-step content. Hey, thanks, Chocolate. I appreciate that. For those of you, and I don't do a really good enough job of advertising this. Some of you say, you know what, Mark, 25-minute consult. It's, I need a whole bunch more help than that, but I'm not quite in a position to be able to pay, the $2,500 for your phenomenal, unbelievable platinum plan, where you work directly with me together to build your application, which is freaking awesome. I will say, I'll advertise it all over the place once I get my website up, but that's what I do a lot of work for my clients. I got this itchy nose. It's killing me. Okay. So basically, that it used to be called my silver plan, but it's not silver. It's way better, I've realized, than even my gold. But for $2,500, I do a complete application review with you. We go through everything together. I help you draft your letters. We look at all the documents. We confirm everything and even upload everything together. It is like the ultra platinum plan. It's awesome. It's like the personal concierge white glove treatment directly from Mark Holthe. But some of you say, well, Mark, I can't afford that right now. And that's totally fine. And I knew that working with people all over the world, not everybody would be able to afford. But I didn't think it was fair having them or forcing them to then go to one of those consultants who doesn't know the difference between a 1-year eligibility for the Canadian Experience class, having to rely on someone else who holds out that they know what they're doing. So what I did was, and let's go back here. So I created, let's see if I can find it right here. I created this, the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here in the comment section so everybody can see. But right here, if you go here and purchase the guide, the lifetime access, the most popular, is $497 US. But if you go purchase guide, and this is only something that I advertise to you guys, and you type in EEDIY 50 and you click apply, it will drop it in half. So for only $248.50 US, you get lifetime access to this EE DIY guide. And Chocolate, I want to thank you so much for purchasing a subscription and for giving a shout out to how awesome it is, because I spent hundreds of hours creating that, and it's a complete walkthrough of everything right from the beginning all the way to the end, full of additional resources and everything. And the most hilarious thing happened to me recently. I had someone purchase just the monthly subscription, and if you just want to jump on for a month, you can purchase it for a month, and you can see monthly auto renewal unless canceled. So it actually renews automatically. And the reason I did that is because if you want to continue at the end of the month, if I didn't do that, it would close out, you would lose access to it, and then you'd have to start all over again. And many of my clients didn't like that. I'm not an automatic renewal kind of guy, but the vast majority of people said just auto renew, and then we will cancel it if we don't want it any further. Well, anyway, someone purchased it and spent about, I think they went in maybe 5 or 6 times and said, Mark, there's nothing new here that I haven't already seen online, researching with someone else. And this is one of the first people that has ever told me that they didn't find anything of value in the guide. I know for a fact that it is chock full of information, but they were just too lazy to actually look. And so what did I do? I promptly gave them their money back, because that is, like, I believe in it 100%. And if someone doesn't see value in it, then that tells me that they actually didn't even take the time to look at it. and they're not worth my time. So I fully returned or refunded their money and don't think twice about it. And it is 100% money back, 100%. You got 30 days to check it out. And if you feel it's useless, then you can request your money back. I know for a fact it's not. Wow, I'm not even sharing my screen. I'm sorry, guys. I keep talking here and forgetting to share. Let me do this one more time. When you go to this page that I put in the link right here, I'm just going to, that's so funny. You go to the main site and you click on individual guides, then you click learn more. And then once you're here, and this is the link that I've posted, you click purchase guide. It's here. This is the lifetime access, $497 US, $97 US per month. You can get monthly access, like I said, which automatically renews. If you click purchase guide, and then you type in here that code EEDIY50 and click apply, it drops it down in half, 50% off. And it's for you people that are watching, that are, that are following. And it's a special offer that I extend just to you. And so you can go in and you can have access to it. Like Chocolate says, she's gone through. It covers all of the content that you could ever imagine. And I actually don't think I have the ability to log in right now. I don't think so, to be able to see. I don't think so. I think I'm on the Kajabi side. But anyways, when you log in, let's see if I can here. Maybe. Let me see if I can. And I'll just show you guys. Oh, I can. Good. Hooray. You can, it's actually mobile enabled. It's really good on your mobile, but this is it. So when you subscribe, this is what you see. I actually haven't been able to do this for a while. It's broken down into modules. So learning the basics, module 1, preparing to submit your express entry profile. So 1 and 2 alone are worth the money that you spend. Even if you don't think you're going to rank high enough, in here, especially learning the basics, talks about how it works, what it's all about, and how the comprehensive ranking system works. Then after that, you go to module 2, and module 2 is where there's tremendous value. The top 5 things to do before you even submit your express entry profile. This teaches you whether or not you should even spend the money to get your language test or waste the money on your educational credential assessment. And that's often, in many countries, almost $500 Canadian as it is. So for $250 US, you're basically being warned to not waste the other money. Then it shows you how to register for your account, and lessons 6 and 7 are all about eligibility, determining whether or not you're even eligible. So you can see module 1 and 2 are useful for every single person out there, regardless of whether or not they're actually going to ultimately be eligible to qualify. They will help you. They will teach you. They will help you to not use some useless consultant who doesn't know what they're doing and are just trying to scam you. We go into great depth about the rounds of invitations, and I help you to understand how to determine whether or not you actually have the ability to qualify or not. And then module 3 is all about completing your profile. Module 4 is about the EAPR forms. Module 5 is all about the documents, and that's what lots of people have. So I'll show you something here. And look at this, guys. There's 44 total lessons. This isn't some joke. This is like super, super intense, super comprehensive. And the person who said they wanted their money back after going in 4 times basically confirmed to me that they were too lazy and never even looked at it. Especially in the beginning, the profile is very basic because it's not about documents. But here, if you go to lesson 40, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't start automatically. No, it didn't. Okay. So lesson 40 is all about documents. And look at down on the right here. These are all of the sample documents, everything from job offers to employer reference letters. I even give you samples of work permits so that you can see what a work permit is supposed to look like so that you're not duped by some scammer. What LMIAs look like, especially PLMIAs, which are the LMIA that result in a job offer, which all of these crooked folks all over the planet are peddling. Okay. And then sample documents of what other people have submitted. Obviously, they're all redacted. Police certificates from many countries, reference letters, both samples as well as redacted ones. You can see what other people have used that have gotten their applications approved. Tons of police certificates, like I said, affidavits for name change, medical, what the e-medical information sheet looks like, the very popular gift deed, even if you're in Canada, what a gift deed looks like, and educational credential assessments for all of the organizations, WES, ICAS, they're all in here. And so I just wanted to just point that out because people just don't understand. And then you think, okay, is that it, Mark? Well, no, it's not. If you go back once again, and you can see the lessons here, there's 44 total lessons. And each of these, if I go back one more, and I'll just show you the EAPR, guys, you have no idea how long it took me to create this. So right here, each of these lessons corresponds with the exact information sections in your EAPR and in the profile. But I had to go through, and if I was to show you this, I'll pause this. I had to go through, and if you could actually see it large, well, maybe you can, I can't. I had to redact, like I had clients who gave me permission to use theirs, their profile when I was completing it. And I had to redact everybody's name, and you have no idea how long it takes to go through frame by frame of a video, edit out to make sure that no confidential information is shared with the world. So, with that being said, trust me, the 400 and whatever I indicated I was going to charge you.
It's going to be in accordance with.
Stop this. Stop. So what I want you to understand is that the time and effort that was put into here is huge. And then I'll show you one last thing, Module 5. And this I know for a fact, or I should say Express Entry, the member resource section. Guys, if you only knew all of this information, I have stuff that's all organized by category, individual videos that go into micro depth. These is where, to a large extent, a lot of the most important information comes. So work experience. And what do I have in here? I've got sections that specifically talk about self-employed, like this one right here at the bottom, which is all dedicated to self-employed work experience. And so understand that each of these categories, each of these sections, it's just full, just chock full of specific guides, specific direction that relate to your area. So if I go back to Express Entry here, the member resource section, you can see work experience, language, Express Entry eligibility, job offers, proof of funds, police clearance, dependent family. I love this one. This is some of the nightmare experiences that you have when you can't get documents for dependent family. Non-accompanying spouse, that's how to complete the forms from the perspective of someone who has a non-accompanying spouse listed. And then education and provincial nomination, other names, relatives in Canada, dependent children, spousal relationships, provincial nominee programs, and refusals. What are the main reasons your Express Entry application can get rejected? So I thought I'd just take some time to show this because not often people just, they don't take the time to stick around and actually watch, but it is phenomenal. And all you need to do to access that guide is to, if I jump back into here, is to go back into that link that I shared with you guys. I'm not even sure if I've got the link here. Well, whatever. I've done enough talking about this. I don't want to waste any more time. I'm already at 1:30 and I'm not going to get any lunch, but it's awesome. Take advantage of it. If you have a question that you want to, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Sorry if I wasn't able to get to everybody, but if you have a question that you want answered, send an email to info@holthylaw.com right here. And my phenomenal intake specialist, Maricia Carr, will onboard you and show you exactly what you need. If you have, if you have a question, that you want to, I'm getting myself all confused. It's not easy doing these videos, managing everything else. There's no post editing to this. I just do it live because I don't have time to go back and post edit. So sometimes I get myself all confused when I'm trying to talk and think and record and move stuff around on my screen like this. But first off, if you have a question that you didn't get answered today, you can always send it to info@holthylaw.com. Make sure you put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. Otherwise, Maricia will just assume that you're looking for a consultation because I don't give free advice, one-to-one advice. It's always via consultation. Or if it's a question of general interest that would apply to everybody else who's watching these videos, EE Live Q&A is how you, right here in your subject line is how you get your question through. But you have to get it past Maricia. So it has to be something of general. If it's something that says, Mark, tell me how I qualify. Nope, she's going to direct you to a consultation. All right, so pay close attention to that. If you want to book a consultation, like I said before, the way you do that is to go to holthylaw.com, go right here, and fill in the information and schedule that consultation, and we'll get you booked in right away. And in fact, the fun part is that I've got a system now where you can book your own appointment. So I've got all my times blocked off, and then you can go in and book whatever appointment that is available. For a limited number of spots, I do have emergency consultations, which are 50% more. They're $300 for a 25-minute consultation. When you have an emergency situation and you need me to bump some other consultations, or basically what it means is I end up working into the evening instead of my regular scheduled time to fit you in. But I'm available for emergency situations to help people as well. All right. Whew. All right. I think that's just about it. The last thing I want to remind everybody is I'm broadcasting from Nikayuko Japanese Gardens in Lethbridge. And I had the chance of actually going to Japan. And okay, I'm not really broadcasting from there, but it's my cool green screen. I want to broadcast from your country next week. So I want you to send an email to info and include the image, the picture that you of the beautiful location in your country, and I'll use it as the background when I'm doing my next EE Live Q&A. So send that to info. You can also send it by messenger to Mark Holthe, my Facebook Messenger account, or you can even post the picture. I'm not sure if you can drag in images. I can't remember. Maybe you can't drag an image into the comment section here, but anyways, those are the options. So send it to me. I'd love to use it. I'll give you credit for it, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited to do these from all over the world. Okay, this is probably one of the longest ones I've done in a super long time, but it was totally worth it. Special thanks to Chris, who joined me to talk about his journey, which was really challenging. He is one of the most recent permanent residents of Canada who has come through what I consider to be the Canadian Immigration Institute as a graduate. And he actually booked, and he retained me to represent him to help with his application. But he was a follower and a part of the group for months and months before that ever happened. So thanks so much for him taking the time to join us. And thanks to all of you guys. You guys are so awesome. You make all of this worthwhile. I absolutely love doing this. And now that I've started Holthe Immigration Law, this whole world is going to know about what we've got here, because I've got Parrot Solutions, and I'm going to pull them in one more time if I can find them once again here. My good friends, Parrot Solutions, who are the back of my whole firm, who are helping with all of my branding and my marketing and my website as soon as I get the content to them with the pictures and everything else. And so shout out to Parrot Solutions. They're phenomenal. You definitely have to check them out. I'll put a link as well in the comment section for them so that you can see if you need a website. That they're the guys that I definitely check out. Okay. And it looks like Vicus is home. All right. Welcome. Welcome back, Vicus. So this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, well, what do you say? I was going to say, well, yes, ex-immigration officer. I did work on the border as an officer, but I'm going to call myself the express entry guru because I totally love this program. It is awesome. And it's one that as an immigration lawyer and having many opportunities to interact with Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, I want to give them a shout out with a big thumbs up because Express Entry is awesome. What a wonderful program. There is no program like it in the world, and something our country, Canada, should be proud of. All right, guys, see you next week. I don't think I have any conflicts. Actually, do you know what? Before I jump off of this, I'm going to take a look at my calendar and make sure I don't have something else scheduled in here. I've got a lot of speaking engagements and I've got a bunch of other things that I'm in the process of working through. And so I got to make sure, yeah, I'm good. It's in the calendar. So February the 4th, Mountain Standard Time, noon, right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page. I will be going live. Make sure that you join me. Those on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe to the channel so you get notifications when I upload new videos like this one. And always remember, the Canadian Immigration Institute is continually expanding, and I hope that it's of use to all of you guys. So good luck as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care.